So that's all pretty in-depth kind of, whoa, God, what kind of world do we live in? So I'm going to kind of look at what we can actually do, because there is some good news, because we know that human exposure studies show that most of our exposure to pollutants occurs indoors from products that we choose to use. So the most toxic place is our home. You know, we've kind of got this thing that it's all out there. I'd probably hazard to say if you're on a mining community or in a toxic farming community, that would be very, you know, I wouldn't say that completely, but most of the time, most toxic places in the home. And therefore, the flip side of it, it means that we can actually really control what's going on a lot more. We can actually choose to reduce our toxic exposure or just completely eliminate our toxic exposure as much as possible anyway. So that gives me a little bit of hope about what we can actually do. I think there's two things. I think there's conscious consumerism, being really clear about how we're consuming and also where we're willing to put our money and dollars. And the other thing is deliberate living, being really deliberate about how we raise our children, how we birth our children, what's in the environment, how, you know, that generational stuff, what kind of a world am I going to leave my children? I think they're the two ones which I'm going to kind of expand on. I love this quote. It's been around for a long time. Let thy food be thy medicine, and then medicine be thy food. And I think that's absolutely critical. I think generally, which comes back to a doctor I work in my clinic with. I work with a doctor called Dr. Greg Emerson, and he is a clinical nutritionist, but he comes from a medical training background, so he used to run an emergency department. And then he got disillusioned. He thought, well, no one's doing prevention here. And so then he went back and became a naturopath and a nutritionist. And he says this, which I really agree with. He says, give the body the right food and environment and the body will always heal itself. You know, it's a constant reminder of how brilliant and amazing our bodies are in terms of, you know, can't always heal itself, you know, if something's been permanently damaged. But a lot of the time we can still live in vibrancy and wellness. I mean, cut your hand, and if you took away the concept of time, it will heal itself. And we forget that, and we forget that if we put our bodies in the right conditions, and it's quite challenging to do that, our bodies will always want to get back to living in wellness and will always try and correct itself. This is a great resource, everydayexposures.com. Expect to spend a lot of time on here though, because you can go to every single room and go, aerosol cans, personal care, I'm going to go to the garage, I'm going to look at what's in the car, I'm going to look at what does a PCB mean, etc., etc. What does phthalate mean? So I would really recommend that resource if you're wanting to get on top of toxicity and learn a little bit more about products and so forth. So that's www.everydayexposures.com, and it's a US-based website, but it's brilliant at kind of that understanding around toxicity in the body. Expanding on that, reducing, minimising toxic exposure, withdrawing consent, purchasing ethical natural products, not being fooled by greenwashing. The other thing I would say on top of that is being local. You know, you've got this amazing chicken farm really in Cairns. Like, I was just so excited by that. You know, going and talking to your farmers directly, talking to who's around in your local community, finding those local farmers who have got local bees, you know, and getting their honey and talking to them about that, etc. The other thing is becoming a bit more of a label detective. If this is your thing, you know, sometimes people leave these talks and go, where do I start? For me, it was initially starting with food and personal care products. You know, and I've become a real passionate about personal care products. I don't know a lot about cleaning products because we don't really use any. It was funny, we did a talk on Current Affair last year, and while they were interviewing me, they had one of the reporters go to my cupboard to open it up, you know, to see if I really was one of those, you know, whether I was a contradiction. It was hilarious. And they found like vinegar, bicarb soda, you know, those really good cloths, etc. You know, that's pretty simple. That's a really simple one to start with, really, and there's some really good, easy cleaning products. The other critical thing is a label detective. If anyone can see that, is that a good product? It's got almond and coconut in it though. Surely that would be good. That's a really common product. So much of the book I did, I spent so much time looking at products in supermarkets, so much so that people would come up to me and go, what do you reckon of this product? You know, they would just ask me. This is a really common shampoo. If you just mix around the products or the ingredients slightly, it's a body wash. If you mix it around a bit more, it's a conditioner. I mean, the ingredients are pretty close, actually, pretty close. So that was my example before, PEG 50 almond glycerides, in brackets, almonds. So often people will look at it. The first thing that people do is they look on the front and they go, oh, frangipani, coconut. oh, I'd like that, I'd like to smell like that. And they're purely based on the label, purely based on that. Then if they turn it around, they will often look at things like almond and coconut, and they'll go, oh, that looks pretty good then. And my general rule of thumb is if you can't read it, you know, really if you just can't read it at all, it probably shouldn't be going on your body at all. And the second one probably is if you can't eat it, I wouldn't put it on our body either. And that's a big one, but you can talk to My Essence about that. They do some really good stuff around that. And another thing, even if you don't really want to get into being a chemical detective, but you want to know a little bit. So I would always say to people, look at the first 3 or 4 ingredients. And if you're a bit dicey about those 3 and 4 ingredients, they do make up 90% of the product. So even something that has like water in it, most products have water, about 80% water. We don't know where that water comes from. We don't know whether it's, you know, out of the tap or where it's actually come from at all. So I would kind of go down that and just start questioning it generally and sort of look at, you know, what, you know, if you think that that's a natural product or not. This is another little tip. There's a little bit, and people at the back probably can't see it, the MSDS, so the Material Safety Data Sheet. Every chemical on the market has to have a material data safety sheet. Sometimes they don't tell us a lot, but most of the time they can tell us a great deal about whether it's been tested, whether it hasn't been tested, whether it's a neurotoxin to rodents, whether it's hypoallergenic, so whether it's actually causing eczema, whether what kind of safety measures you need. Do you need gloves and glasses when you use this product, like spray and wipe? If you look up spray and wipe, it's fascinating. You know, no one would use spray and wipe again after you actually look at the MSDS, because it comes with a warning, which is, if anyone uses MSDS, we recommend they use a mask and coveralls, you know, and yet people liberally aspire around the house, and yet their material safety data sheet. So you can actually go through and on any chemical. So I just did this generally. So people say to me, I'm not a chemist, I'm not a toxicologist, how would I possibly know how to do that? And yet something like this, you could actually go through this ingredient and it's got irritants in it, it's directly linked to cancer in terms of carcinogenic materials, irritating, harmful and corrosive. So anyone could do this to any product, and this is just a really common product on the market. So if you do want to become a bit more of a label detective, you can do that. Chemical Maze is amazing. I work with Bill Statham. I think it's out there. Yeah. It's got, and he is this amazing, humble man who lives in country Victoria, and all of his life he's sold, he's a real treasure for Australia. He's sold over 100,000 copies all across the world. It's in 6 different languages, and it's just a little tiny book that you open up and you can get food, anything in food additives, any of the numbers, and personal care products, and you can literally flip it over. He's got happy and sad faces in it, and he's also got a little bit of a description about what's good and what's bad about it, and it's also got an iPhone application. There is also the Skin Deep database, which is on the web. The Skin Deep database, you could put in any product, you could put in whatever product you're using, so you could put the brand name or you could put a particular ingredient, and you could actually look at that and they then score the toxicity of that, but that's also a good database. My Essence has got, there's quite a few different databases. In terms of optimal development, this is what I would probably suggest just in terms of some steps. Reduce your chemical exposure. I mean, that's without, I mean, if everyone doesn't go away and change something in their lives from this talk, I'll be very disappointed. Reduce chemical exposure. Breast milk from a nutritionally replete mother. So making sure that mum has, before she actually has bubbers, and you know, in between bubbers, just making sure that she is nutritionally replete and so forth. Nutritional adequacy of iron, zinc, vitamin D. Unprocessed whole foods, organic food, superfoods. Spring water. So really thinking about what kind of water you're actually giving your children. Low to no sugar diet. It's really hard. We find it, you know, we're really onto it, and yet we still find it hard to do a no sugar diet. But sugar's, you know, there's some really good books out there around the toxicity of sugar, particularly processed sugar. Laughter, playing in the dirt. In fact, I talked to my partner earlier today, and they'd gone to Northey Street Organic Farm. And I love it, the fact that it's a permaculture, it's an organic farm. My kids play in it, they pretty much eat the dirt. And I just think about all the good bacteria in terms of the soil and the dirt that my kids are actually getting. Today, my 5-year-old sprayed herself down with water and got in the soil and did those soil angels, like complete feral, you know, but it was awesome because I think, gosh, she's actually getting that good bacteria from the soil, because so often soils are pretty crap, you know, you have to be really careful, but something like that is something we were really happy that she could eat it if she wanted to. Adequate sleep and relaxation, sunlight and appropriate microbial colonisation of the gut. You know, you could do a whole talk just on the importance of the gut and making sure you get good probiotics and superfoods. And seafood, it's funny, I was working with a naturopath on my last talk. All fish, she did this great slide looking at fish, different types of fish, and in fact you can actually go online and actually look at some of the better fish than other fish. But you know, it's got all the really good omega-3s. Anything that's farmed though, you know, she talked about the tassel fish that supplies about 90-95% in Australia. The fish meal, you know, they're farmed fish, so most of our salmon is actually farmed. I'll let you know what's actually in the pellets. So they're farmed fish from Tasmania. They live in very pristine waters. They're very healthy fish. They're sustainable fish in terms of, you know, but at the same time, if you look at what's actually in their pellets, their fish pellets, I'll let you know what's in their fish pellets. 15% of their fish pellets are actual fish. You know, they need to actually eat other fish. Then there's protein, which is the poultry, so fish are eating chicken. There's canola oil, there's soy products, and there was one more, and a sodium. And then they're coloured with xanthan, so it's actually an artificial, you know, because everyone here would know that if we didn't add astaxanthin into their food sources, they'd be grey, you know, so they add a synthetic, so that's what makes it red, you know, the salmon on our plates, really, it's a colouring. It's not a natural one. So apparently though, our fish is the safest in terms of farmed fish in all the world. It's still got some really good omega benefits and so forth, and yet it's still a little bit dicey, you know. Some, like we use a lot of cod liver oil, for example, in terms of the omega-3s, and there is some really good, if you look online, there are some really good tables to show some of the better fish than, you know, the more toxic and less toxic fish. So I'd really encourage you to go have a look at them. We do eat a little bit of fish. Anything that's wild, if you can get hold of, if like when we were in Canada last year, we were able to get wild salmon, amazing salmon, lowest, you know, mercury levels, lowest amount of PCB. The health and well-being of our young people and babies is a critical measure of society for 2 reasons. In moral terms, how well a society cares for its weak and vulnerable is a measure of how civilised it is. In more pragmatic terms, a society that fails to cherish its youth fails. It's as simple as that. And I think I would fathom to say we're kind of failing our children right now with the kind of health implications they're having and their toxic load. But there's a lot we can actually do, so thanks for coming along to this seminar.